जय राधा माधवा कुंज विहारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोदनंदन व्रज जन रंजना यशोदनंदन व्रज जन रंजना यशोदनंदन व्रज जन रंजना यमुना तीरावनचारी यमुना तीरावनचारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज विहारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोदनंदन व्रज जन रंजना यमुना तीरावनचारी यमुना तीरावनचारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज विहारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज विहारी जय कृष्ण बलराम जय कृष्ण बलराम कृष्ण बलराम जय कृष्ण बलराम जय गौरानिताय जय गौरानिताय गौरानिताय जय गौरानिताय जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय मिश्रपाद परमंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शतश्री श्रीमद डिवाइन ग्रेस एसी भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी शील प्रभुपाद की जय। जय मिश्रपाद परमंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शतश्री श्रीमद डिवाइन ग्रेस शील भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी महाराज की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासदि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद्भागवतम की जय। श्री श्री कृष्ण बलराम की जय। श्री श्री गौरनिताय की जय। हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र की जय। जगत गुरु शील प्रभुपाद की जय। निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। Reading from Srimad-Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter number 22, The Marriage of Kardamani and Devahuti, text number 16. Kamaha saha bhuyat naradevaha te asyaha kamaha sabhuya naradevate syaha kamaha sabhuya naradevate syaha putryaha samamnaya vidhau pratitaha putryaha samamnaya vidhau pratitaha putryaha samamnaya vidhau pratitaha kaha eva te tanayam na adriyeta kayeva te tanayam nadriyeta kayeva te tanayam nadriyeta swaya eva kantya kshipatim iva shriyam swayaiva kantya kshipatim iva shriyam swayaiva kantya kshipatim iva shriyam kamaha sabhuya naradevate syaha putryaha samamnaya vidhau pratitaha kayeva te tanayam nadriyeta swayaiva kantya kshipatim iva shriyam kamaha sabhuya naradevate syaha putryaha samamnaya vidhau pratitaha kayeva te tanayam nadriyeta swayaiva kantya kshipatim iva shriyam kamaha sabhuya naradevate syaha putryaha samamnaya vidhau pratitaha kayeva te tanayam nadriyeta swayaiva kantya kshipatim iva shriyam Kamaha, desire. saha, that, bhuyat, let it be fulfilled. Naradeva, O king, te, your, asyaha, this, putryaha, of the daughter, samamnaya vidau, in the process of the Vedic scriptures, pratitaha, recognized, kaha, who, eva, in fact, te, your, tanayam, daughter, na adriyeta, would not adore, swaya, by her own, eva, alone, kantya, bodily luster, kshipatim, excelling, iva, as if, shriyam, ornaments. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Let your daughter's desire for marriage, which is recognized in the Vedic scriptures, be fulfilled. Who would not accept her hand? She is so beautiful that by her bodily luster alone she excels the beauty of her ornaments. Kindly repeat. Let your daughter's desire for marriage, which is recognized in the Vedic scriptures, be fulfilled. Who would not accept her hand? She is so beautiful that by her bodily luster alone she excels the beauty of her ornaments. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Kardamani wanted to marry Devahuti in the recognized manner of marriage prescribed in the scriptures. As stated in the Vedic scriptures, the first class process is to call the bridegroom to the home of the bride and hand her to him in charity with a dowry of necessary ornaments, gold, furniture, and other household paraphernalia. This form of marriage is prevalent among higher class Hindus even today and is declared in the Shastras to confer great religious merit on the bride's father. To give a daughter in charity to a suitable son-in-law is considered to be one of the pious activities of a householder. There are 8 forms of marriage mentioned in the scripture, Manusmriti, but only one process of marriage, Brahma or Rajasika marriage, is now current. Other kinds of marriage, by love, by exchange of garlands, or by kidnapping the bride, are now forbidden in this Kali age. Formerly, Kshatriyas would, at their pleasure, kidnap a princess from another royal house, and there would be a fight between the Kshatriya and the girl's family. Then, if the kidnapper was the winner, the girl would be offered to him for marriage. Even Krishna married Rukmini by that process, and some of his sons and grandsons also married by kidnapping. Krishna's grandsons kidnapped Duryodhana's daughter, which caused a fight between the Kuru and Yadu families. Afterward, an adjustment was made by the elderly members of the Kuru family. Such marriages were current in bygone ages, but at the present moment, they are impossible because the strict principles of Kshatriya life have practically been abolished. Since India has become dependent on foreign countries, the particular influences of our social orders have been lost. Now, according to the scriptures, everyone is a Shudra. The so-called Brahmanas, Kshatriyas and Vaishyas have forgotten their traditional activities, and in the absence of these activities, they are called Shudras. It is said in the scriptures, Kalau Shudra Sambhavaha. In the age of Kali, everyone will be like Shudras. The traditional social customs are not followed in this age, although formerly they were followed strictly. Dasa in the Bhaktivedanta purport. Om Jnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namavo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Gurum Deenataranam. Kardamani is responding to Swayambhuva Manu's proposal of her age, like we discussed last time. The Savitra, Prajapatya and Brahma brahmacharis are called Upakurvana. The fourth kind of brahmachari is the Naishtika brahmachari. Naishtika brahmachari cannot marry. Kardamani was an Upakurvana brahmachari. He was not a Naishtika brahmachari. So in all those ways, and also Kardamani having obtained an instruction from his father and spiritual master Brahmaji to procreate, therefore he had a desire to marry. So considering all these conditions, and also that Devahuti had set her heart upon marrying Kardamani, therefore Swayambhuva Manu tried to convince Kardamani with all these considerations. And Kardamani, like we saw in the previous verse, he has been convinced by Swayambhuva Manu's proposal, and he has said that Avayor Anurupo Asav Adyo Vaivahiko Vidhihi. Therefore, our marriage according to the Vedic system can take place. And here, Kardamani is addressing Swayambhuva Manu as Naradeva. Naradeva means a king is referred to as Naradeva in the Vedic times. The meaning of the word Naradeva means he is Deva, the Supreme Lord, in Nara, in the human form. In other words, the king is supposed to be the representative of the Supreme Lord. Whatever purpose Krishna wants to fulfill in this material world, the king is supposed to facilitate that. Naradeva Asyaha te putryaha samamnai vidhau pratitaha sahakamaha bhuyat. So he is saying, Naradeva, O representative of the Supreme Lord, Asyaha, of this girl, because Devahuti was also present there in Kardamani's hermitage. Swayambhuva Manu had taken Swayambhuva Manu had taken Devahuti, his daughter, along with his wife, and he had come to the hermitage of Kardamani. So she was right there. Therefore, Kardamani is saying, Naradeva, Asyaha, of this girl, Te Putriyaha, who is your daughter. Te means your daughter, Putriyaha, Samamnai Vidhau Pratitaha Sahakamaha. Of your daughters, Samamnai Vidhau Pratitaha Sahakamaha, that desire of hers, which is approved in the Vedas. Amna means the Vedas. Amnaya Vidhau. What is the Vidhi? Vidhi means rules and regulations. So, Samamnaya Vidhau, Amnaya Vidhau, according to the rules and regulations of the scriptures of the Vedas, Pratitaha, what is approved, what is allowed for. Sahakamaha, that desire of hers, which is approved of in the Vedic scriptures, Bhuyat, let it be fulfilled. So, Kardamani is saying that Devahuti's desire to marry Kardamani is approved of in the Vedic scriptures. It is not against the Vedic regulations. And one more thing, Kardamani is saying that Swayambhu Manu, you have brought this proposal to me. And you have brought this proposal to me because your daughter wants to marry me. So he is saying that Swayaiva Kantya Shriyam Kshipatim Iva Te Tanayam Kaha Eva Na Adriyeta. He is asking Swayambhu Manu, you have come here to my doorstep. You want me to marry your daughter Devahuti, and your daughter Devahuti also wants that. So, Te Tanayam, that daughter of yours, Kaha eva na adriyeta, who will refuse to marry her? Why? Because Swayaiva Kantya Shriyam Kshipatim Iva. She excels the beauty of her ornaments. She is so beautiful. Swayaiva Kantya, by her own beauty, Shriyam, the beauty of her ornaments, Kshipatim Iva, she excels. Generally, we wear ornaments to beautify ourselves. You will see women are fond of wearing many ornaments, necklace, earring, nose ring, bangles, all kinds of ornaments they will wear. If you look at men, generally, men, what will they have? Nothing will be there on them. Maybe one gold necklace will be there, maybe one, wedding ring will be there. Apart from that, hardly anything will be there. Of course, some men, you can see, they will be decked from head to toe, but otherwise, generally, men are not so much interested in decking themselves up. But women, they like to dress themselves in nice ornaments. Why? Because when they put on the ornaments, they look more beautiful. But in the case of Devahuti, Kardamani is saying, because we can expect that Devahuti is the daughter of Swayambhu Manu, the emperor. The emperor's daughter must be bedecked in the finest of jewelry, gold and diamonds and all that. So, Swayambhu Manu had brought her there, so naturally she must be wearing fine silk sari and gold and diamond ornaments. They wear girdle, they wear bangles, anklets, earrings, etc., etc. She must have been wearing all sorts of golden ornaments because she is, after all, the daughter of the emperor. There is no dearth of any wealth. So, Kardamani is saying, Shriyam, those ornaments that your daughter is wearing, they are not beautifying her. On the other hand, she is beautifying those jewels and those ornaments. Those ornaments are looking beautiful because of her. Or in other words, Swayaiva Kantya, her beauty is so wonderful that those ornaments are looking very dull. Those gold and jeweled ornaments are looking very dull in front of her beauty. Such is her beauty. So who would not like to marry her? So Kardamani is expressing his acceptance to marrying Devahuti. Now, the Devahuti is highly qualified in terms of age, character, beauty, and of course her own heart's desire to marry Kardamani. And she has not given her word, neither has her father Swayambhu Manu given word to anybody else to marry her. And so therefore, under all these considerations, Kardamani is accepting to marry her. Now the important point here that Kardamani is mentioning is that Amnaya Vidhau Pratitaha, the desire of Devahuti to marry is approved of in the Vedic scriptures. The Vedas approve of marriage between suitable boys and girls. Although the Vedic scriptures are meant for liberation, meant for disidentification of ourselves from this body, we are all steeped in the ignorance of the bodily concept of life. The Vedas are giving instructions so that we can overcome that ignorance and understand, recognize our original position as being the servants of the Supreme Lord. And by doing so, get ourselves liberated from this material world and go back to Godhead. This is the whole purpose of all the instructions in the Vedic scriptures. Now, to achieve that purpose, the Vedas give many secondary as well as primary instructions. There is a lot of emphasis placed in the Vedas on the Karmakanda portions of the Vedas. Why do the Vedas place so much emphasis on the Karmakanda portion? Because by and large, the people are attracted to the fruits of the results. They engage in activities because of the fruits it offers, the fruits that our endeavors promise. If those fruits are not promised, people will not have the motivation to act. Therefore, engaging that fruitive mentality, the Vedas in the Karmakanda portion, they encourage the people to engage in activities by showing them some nice, attractive fruits. But those activities are such that while engaging in them, the people can taste those fruits. Simultaneously, those activities will elevate them in their consciousness slowly from tamoguna, rajoguna to sattva-guna. So gradually what happens is, as the person proceeds towards sattva-guna, gradually he will lose the taste for those to enjoy the fruits of his actions, and he will become attached to doing his duty. So from a karma, he will come to become a karma yogi, meaning he will execute his duties without attachment to the results. Then gradually, by performing karma yoga, the Vedas elevate the person to come to the point of understanding, becoming firmly fixed in the knowledge that I am not the body, I am the spirit soul. If I am not the body, I am a spirit soul, then all the duties which are explained in the Vedas are related to the body. So, if I am not the body, why do I need to conduct all those duties? So, give up all those duties, renounce those duties and take sannyas. And from there begins the stage of Jnana Yoga. And by gradually performing Jnana Yoga, gradually one cultivates the knowledge about oneself, one's true position, one's Swarupa and the Swarupa of this material world. Gradually one comes to understand that I am the Atma, but there is a Paramatma also. There is a Supreme Brahman. Now then he engages in the next quest to find out who is that Parabrahman, who is that Paramatma. And so the Vedas are describing that Parabrahman, that Paramatma is in our heart. And so he engages in meditation, controlling all his senses and focusing inward, searching out the Paramatma or the Parabrahman within the heart. And by engaging in meditation, dhyana, coming finally to the stage of samadhi, where he is able to actually see the four-handed Vishnu form Paramatma within the heart, then what happens? Oh, Vishnu is that Paramatma, he is the Parabrahman, therefore I should render service to him. And then begins Bhakti Yoga. So why do the Vedas have to take us through so many phases? Amnaya Vidhav, so many rules and regulations, gradually elevating a person to Bhakti Yoga. If Bhakti Yoga is supposed to be the ultimate stage which a person has to achieve, why not directly engage a person in Bhakti Yoga? Because when we are performing Bhakti Yoga, there is a quality to that performance of the Bhakti Yoga. Number one, we have to understand that Bhakti Yoga, when we perform, we have to offer the results of all our activities to Krishna. Bhakti Yoga, by its very definition, requires that we have to offer the results of all our activities to Krishna without any desire to enjoy those results ourselves. That is the first qualification required. Second aspect of Bhakti Yoga is that we have to understand our position in the performance of that Bhakti Yoga. We have to understand that I am the servant of Krishna, I am not this body, then only we can render Bhakti Yoga. If I am thinking I am this body, I am a man, I am a woman, I am in this part of this material world, etc., then what will happen? Our service to Krishna will be misplaced. We will be serving Krishna, although externally we may be serving Krishna, it will be full of faults because of our bodily identification. So if Krishna consciousness, if bhakti has to be performed under these two categories, so the Karma Yoga process, what it does is, it trains us in performing duties, giving up the desire for enjoying the results ourselves, which is helpful for us in performing Bhakti Yoga. Because in Bhakti Yoga, you have to give the results to Krishna. When I am cooking in the kitchen, I have to cook not for myself, I have to cook for Krishna. So, if I have practiced Karma Yoga, where I perform my duties without desire for the result, I will be able to do that. Otherwise, when I am cooking, what will be my consciousness? Nice halwa I am making. Ghee halwa. I am just waiting, when will I taste it? So, it becomes aparad in offering to Krishna. Because when you offer anything to Krishna, you should never desire to enjoy that result. If I desire to enjoy a result and offer to Krishna, then what happens is, it becomes Kama Mishra Bhakti, and it is not very pleasing to Krishna. That's not Uttama Bhakti. So Uttama Bhakti to perform, you have to give up the desire for the results for yourself. So that is trained up by the person, the yogi is trained up in that, in the Karma Yoga stage. And in the Jnana Yoga stage, what happens is, one gives up one's identification with the body, which is essential in the stage of Bhakti Yoga, to be able to serve Krishna in the mood that Krishna, I am your servant. I am not this body, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Naham Varni, na Grihapatir, na Shudro. He says, I am not Kshatriya, I am not Vaishya, I am not Shudra, I am not a Brahmana, I am not a Brahmachari, I am not a Grihastha, I am not a Vanaprastha, I am not a Sannyasi, I am not any of these things. All these identification one has to set aside. So in the stage of Jnana Yoga, one is trained to perform duties without the bodily concept of life. And then in the stage of Bhakti Yoga, the third aspect is, one has to be constantly thinking of Krishna. Kirtaniya Sada Harihi. That is called Bhakti Yoga. It's not that early morning I get up 5 minutes, I am very focused on my Lord Krishna. After that, next 23 hours, 55 minutes, I am engaged in my own activities. It cannot be that. Bhakti Yoga is a 24/7 activity. While sleeping, while eating, while drinking, while walking, while doing any activity, we have to be Krishna conscious. This is Bhakti. So, how do I develop that focused concentration on Krishna? That Dhyana Yoga we are trained up in. In Dhyana, when you are engaged in Samadhi, you withdraw all your senses and you are focused only on the Supreme Lord. So that gives you the training to be able to perform Bhakti Yoga without any other deviation or distraction. So like this, the Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga and the process of Dhyana Yoga are training a person to engage in Bhakti Yoga. And so therefore, the Vedas give descriptions of various rules and regulations to engage us in these different yoga processes to bring us finally to the stage of Bhakti Yoga. So, in the stage of when one is still addicted to the fruits of one's activities, the Vedas, Amnaya Vidav, the Vedas, they say, okay, the Krishna also understands our mood and our weaknesses. So understanding our weakness, the Veda says, okay, you have a desire to enjoy your senses. You want to enjoy the fruits of your activities. Therefore, do that in a restricted way. While engaging in dana, tapasya and yajna. These are things which you have to do. That means a portion of the results which you have got, you have to sacrifice. You have to give away in charity. and little bit of vrata, tapasya you have to take. In that you cannot enjoy unrestricted sense gratification. In a restricted way, in a limited way, in an approved manner, you engage in sense gratification. That will not bind you to this material world, although what it will do is, it will gradually elevate your consciousness in Sattva-guna. So, one of the most fundamental and strongest desire that all of us have is attraction to the opposite sex. Now, that attraction to the opposite sex, that is there in every life form. You take even in animals also, that attraction is there. But because animals do not have the developed consciousness, they are not governed by the rules of the Vedas, so they engage in unrestricted sense gratification. If you look at animals like hogs, they will have sex with their mother, with their sister, no discrimination. But nobody is going to file a case against a hog for incest. If a human being does that, there will be a case, police will come and arrest, he will be put behind bars, all these things will happen. Because the human being has the certain ability to choose between right and wrong. Discrimination between what should be done, what should not be done. A discrimination of a better sense exists among the human beings. Therefore, the human beings have the capability to discriminate and restrain themselves. Recognizing this capability in the human being, the Vedas, samamnai vidhau, they give various rules and regulations. This you can do, this you cannot do. So, you have to understand, the Vedas are giving knowledge which is suitable to be followed in the human form of life. Recognizing that faculty in the human being to discriminate between right and wrong, to be able to choose what to do, what not to do, although the senses may be demanding something. That capability is there in a human being. Recognizing that, the Vedas give various rules and regulations, what we should do, what we should not do. So, in the Vedas are recognizing this faculty in the human being, these faculties, these abilities, these innate capabilities in the human being, to be able to restrain one's senses and to be able to discriminate, and also at the same time recognizing that force within the heart which attracts one to the opposite sex. What the Vedas do? The Vedas give a restrained way in which that desire to associate with the opposite sex can be expressed. And for this, there is the institution of marriage. So, a human being is not expected to go and have unlimited girlfriends and have unrestricted sex enjoyment with all of them, just like a monkey will do, or a cat will do, or a lion will do, or a dog in the street will do. All of them have multiple partners. They don't have a concept of marriage, and they enjoy like that. Human beings are not expected to be on the level of animals. So, therefore, the Vedas state, marry one person and you express your attraction for the opposite sex only to that person. In that way, you channelize your lust in that direction, so that what happens is, you are exercising self-restraint. You are learning how to control your senses and say no to them. Although the senses are demanding, I am married to this woman, but some other beautiful woman passes by, senses will attract. But no, Vedas state, I should be attached only to my wife. So, avoid. So what happens? You learn how to restrain your senses. You learn the art of self-restraint, which will elevate you in Sattva-guna. And within that institution of marriage also, what happens is, there is further injunctions in the Vedas to be able to give us an opportunity to exercise our free will even further. And therefore, the Vedas state, even within marriage, the man and the woman, the husband and the wife, can have sex only for the matter of procreation, to produce children of good quality. So, this injunction in the Vedas is there. So we can see how the restrictions which are there in the Vedas are given taking into consideration various factors. These are not dogmas. These are not blind injunctions given with no reasoning or justification behind them. There is deep thought and reasoning behind every injunction in the Vedas. The spirit behind the Vedas is to utilize, to give an opportunity for the jiva, for the living, to give an opportunity to the living entity to expand his realm of free will. Free will means the ability to choose what to do and what not to do, despite the demands of the senses. In today's world, free will is defined as submitting oneself to the dictations of the senses. That is the the people have misunderstood the real meaning of free will. Free will means whatever my senses may dictate, I will decide what I have to do. I will decide whether I should engage in that sense gratification or not. My senses will not decide. That's called free will. Because in Kali Yuga, this kind of training and opportunity, the people do not, the rulers themselves are trying to prevent the people from following the Vedic rules and regulations. So what happens is, the people are being deprived of an opportunity to increase the scope of their free will. So this activity by the current day leaders is actually Jiva Himsa. It is violence against the living entities because you are preventing them from increasing your free will. When a person follows the Vedic rules and regulations, he becomes greater and greater in control. He increases his control over his senses more and more. The more he practices the rules and regulations of the Vedas, the more he becomes in control of his senses. The more he becomes in control of his senses, the more his free will. He becomes in charge of deciding what to do and what not to do, not the senses. Unfortunately, in today's world, whatever the senses do, whatever the senses dictate, I should do. That is called free will. That is called freedom. That is not freedom. In the Vedas, that is called bondage. So such bondage we have to, to be able to perceive the dictation of the senses as bondage is actually real knowledge. And to be able to perceive this, to be able to receive this kind of knowledge, one requires the mercy of a pure devotee. One requires the dust from the lotus feet of a pure devotee. So therefore, we have to understand that samamnai vidau pratitaha. In the Vedic scriptures, the permission for the approval for the process of marriage is given. The intention for that is not plain sense gratification. The intention is to give an opportunity to the jiva to be able to express the lust within the heart in a channelized manner, such that he will increase his free will, he will be able to increase his control over his senses, and he will be able to elevate his consciousness to a higher consciousness, ultimately to come to the stage of liberation. So in Bhakti Yoga, of course, the same propensities that are there in the human beings, the same desires to enjoy the fruits are dealt with in a much better way, in a more refined way, in a more powerful way than the Karmakanda portions of the Vedas. So even in Bhakti Yoga also marriage is allowed. But then by practicing that ashrama of Grihastha ashrama in Bhakti Yoga, as Srila Prabhupada says, a person who is able to properly follow the principles in Grihastha ashrama while rendering devotional service, where both the husband and wife are engaged in serving the Supreme Lord Krishna, then that Grihastha is a Brahmachari Grihastha. So we have heard of 4 kinds of Brahmacharis. One is Savitra, Prajapatya, Brahma, and finally there is there is Naishtika. Now a new fifth kind of brahmachari is there in Bhakti Yoga. A grahastha brahmachari. He is as good as a brahmachari. So, these in Bhakti Yoga, that's the power of Bhakti Yoga, where the same externally, the same, it may look like the same activity, but the result is not sense gratification, but it is elevation to the spiritual kingdom. So, there are, like this, the injunctions in the Vedas and the various instructions given by the pure devotee spiritual master to engage a disciple in rendering devotional service. These are all transcendental means to elevate the follower to a higher plane to go back to Godhead finally. So, therefore, Kardamani is also explaining that the desire for Devahuti to marry Kardamani is approved in the Vedas because she is not making the decision simply to enjoy her senses, but because she has a desire to elevate herself spiritually. That's why she desired to marry a sage. If her desire was to simply engage in sense gratification and give an outlet to her lusty desires, she would have desired to marry some king or some opulent person like that, where she could have satisfied her senses much better. But that was not her desire. Therefore, her desire to marry Kardamani is very much approved in the Vedas, because her desire will actually be the cause for her elevation back to Godhead, which we will see as we go through the history of Kardamani and Devahuti. So I'll stop here. If there are any questions or comments, we can discuss. Yes, please.
Persons who are not in the Krishna consciousness or Bhakti Yoga, but still remain unmarried, and people like Anna Hazare, Yogi Adityanath, and Sannyasis of Ramakrishna Math, and all these people, how they manage to practice brahmacharya?
You see, what happens is, this when a person it's not that only devotees can remain brahmacharis. The various kinds of yogis, jnana yogis, dhyana yogis, those who are practicing strictly the rules and regulations of that respective yoga path, can also strictly practice brahmacharya. In fact, the path of Jnana Yoga requires that one must become a strict sannyasi. Sannyasi means there is no question of association with woman at all. So there also one has to practice brahmacharya. And in the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad-gita, Krishna, when he explains Dhyana Yoga, he says the first qualification required to practice Ashtanga Yoga is that one must practice brahmacharya. So brahmacharya is possible to be practiced on the strength of one's tapasya. So when people are engaged in tapasya, you take all these examples, Anna Hazare and all those people, they were engaged in some tapasya. Because they were engaged in the tapasya, on the strength of the tapasya, they are able to maintain brahmacharya. If one is not engaged in tapasya, then one cannot, it's not possible to practice brahmacharya. So it goes mainly by determination and a higher purpose in life. So when one has a higher purpose in life, the lower desires get subdued. But the fact is that although such people may practice brahmacharya, the desire to engage in sense gratification or the desire for attraction to the opposite sex is not completely died down. It is subdued. That is the reality. It is subdued. The moment they stop their tapasya or they stop following the practice of their dhyana or whatever, immediately that desire for the opposite sex will surface. It will resurface. Whereas when a person engages in Bhakti Yoga, that attraction is totally cut off from its root, because it is replaced with the attraction for Krishna, which is a very, very powerful attraction which no other attraction can overcome in this world. That is how we have to understand. Is that okay? Any other point? We'll stop here. Grantharaj Srimad-Bhagavatam ki jai, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol.